around here as I'm going to welcome in Chris Towers, Danielle Salinger, and Alex Fast. Oh man, Alex, you're still here after yesterday? I am absolutely shocked. I mean, I hope you saw me and Justin learn the cha-cha-cha and dance on camera.
There's nothing like being in a meeting with a bunch of executive SVPs and then have your phone ball up to find out that people are reliving events that you did at 18 years old. Like, that's a really unique and bizarre experience. But yeah, that was something else. That was something else.
It was glorious to watch.
It was fun. It was a great time. Everybody, you can check out all of the panels, all the presentations on YouTube next week. And we just have a new donation coming in from Scott. Thank you so much. $100, amazing. We're over the $7,000 mark now. Thank you so much, Scott, not only for your time, but obviously for the cause as well. And yes, let's see how far we can go in this panel. But what are we doing, Chris? What is this panel?
We're gonna be, there's a lot of anger and resentment among baseball fans these days, and everybody who loves baseball seems to hate capital B baseball. But I think we should talk about what makes baseball great and talk about some of our favorite memories and moments in Major League Baseball, whether it's our personal favorites, whether it's important moments for the game, really cool pitches that showed up on a GIF list somewhere, whatever you guys want it to be, whatever means the most and makes GIF makes you, exemplifies why we love baseball. I think that's really the thing, because it's really easy to be cynical about baseball as a business and as a corporation and everything right now, but we love this game. That's the reason why we're all doing this stream and doing the work that we all do, is because we love the game. And so let's celebrate that.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do, we are going to be drafting our favorite baseball moments. I have 10 rounds here. I don't know. I have, of course, the round messed up, but doesn't matter. We have 10 rounds. We're going to go as long as we can here. Maybe we get through 10. Maybe we don't. Then now, Chris, can we do, when we say our baseball moments, is how broad are we going here?
So, anybody who's ever done a podcast or anything with me where you have a, hey, Chris, you're doing this. And then I'll be like, okay, but how far can I stretch that thing, the definition of it? And so, I don't know. Could you pick, one of my thoughts was just Jose Fernandez. Just the moment that Jose Fernandez, the brief moment he was in Major League Baseball, could that count? Kind of think it could, but that's maybe too overly broad. So I'm going to say at bat, pitcher performance, single game, single season, series, whatever you want, whatever sings to you, I think is
all right. So
the way we should do it.
We're gonna start with Alex Fassi. We're gonna do this normal snake draft here.
Okay.
It's round one. One. What is your thought process, Fast? And what's your first pick?
I've been thinking about this. This is so wonderfully nebulous that it has triggered my anxiety in so many ways, right? Because it's especially with a 1-1 pick, because it's okay, well, do you go with do you go with the catch? You know what I mean? Do you go with, Babe Ruth calling his shot? But in the spirit of Towers, which is
the world's scariest ghost.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a rejected Tolkien book, The Spirit of Towers. I'm going to go with something that means a lot to me, okay, as my 1-1, okay? And this is actually an event that I don't think gets as much credit as it should be on more top baseball lists, because I don't think I've actually seen it on any top baseball lists, and that is September 28th, 2011, Game 162. So that is the day that the 6 different teams had an opportunity to make the playoffs. That was the day of the curse of the Andino for the Baltimore Orioles, when we beat the Red Sox, John Lester-led Red Sox, in the final game of the season, when the Rays came back against the Yankees to take it into extra innings. I think St. Louis and Atlanta both had games that they needed to win as well. And the reason I'm putting it 162, I remember sitting in my apartment in Williamsburg, 208 South 3rd Street, and that was also the day that my love of baseball rekindled and my love of the Orioles rekindled. And that was because that was the day before the Orioles went on a pretty good run of the playoffs. And it was just like, this is what baseball can be. Everything culminated into one beautiful night where there was so much pressure all over the place. And it was like, it felt like Red Zone was birthed that day.
Yeah.
Every second, a new thing was happening that you couldn't believe.
It
And
was like 1/2 hour, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly. Like
Timing
all
was
these
perfect.
crazy endings to
Nothing
games. Because
overlapped the other.
nothing.
I was working at the Miami Herald at the time, and I remember like not working for an hour just because it was so crazy
And that
how
was
much
it.
was going on. We had like all the TVs going on.
And that's
yeah,
a
that
great
was-
point too. Like because there was no Red Zone, there was no singular place to watch it. So you had to be like, "Holy, how am I going to find this
Right.
Orioles game?" You know what I mean?
I was at a bar and I kept asking them to change a channel. Like, no, go to this one, go to that one. And every single time it turned on, the next big thing happened. It was so perfect.
Yeah.
I have to cross it off my list. It's on here.
It was.
Oh, I'm upset.
That's
I'm
a great
upset.
one. That's a great pick.
Our first night.
Your first night.
Danielle.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yes.
Oh, I had such a hard time really figuring out which one I wanted to go with as number one. But I decided to go with something that maybe everybody can enjoy, because although it is a huge moment in Giants history, it's also something that is very, very well known. So, October 3rd, 1951, the shot heard round the world. Bobby Thompson's home run to beat the Dodgers, which makes it an even better pick for me. And as a matter of fact, I have a little bit of a story that I had when I was looking everything up and trying to find some video to share. I read a little story about that. At the time, not every broadcast was recorded. So the radio broadcasts that went out, they weren't always recorded. But somehow a man named Larry Goldberg, who was going to have to be working in Manhattan at the time and wanted to be able to hear the end of the game because he knew something big was going to happen with it being game 3. So he stuck his reel-to-reel next to the radio that they had in the house and asked his mom to hit record as soon as the 9th inning came on. And that is the only reason that that call lives on today,
Unbelievable.
which I thought that was really incredible. So
That's amazing.
yeah. And apparently he called Russ Hodges, who made the call, and let him know, hey, I don't know if you have a copy of this, but I do. And Russ Hodges had it pressed into records and gave them away as Christmas presents.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
That's great.
That's amazing.
All right.
So that's my
All
pick
right.
one.
So I have a very long list here. And I have some sleepers. But there's one to me that I just always go back to, is just the best inning of baseball I have ever witnessed in my life. And it's the Blue Jays Rangers 7th inning. That started at the top of it with the throw back to the pitcher hitting the bat of Edwin, not Edwin. I can't remember who it is, sticking out their bat all of a sudden, and it was just the greatest moment of chaos. You have the entire stadium throwing things onto the field. You have Edwin saying, "Whoa, hold on, please! Like, don't do this. We want to play baseball. No one knows the ruling here. Is this the right thing? Is it not?" All of a sudden, the Jays are down, and then all of a sudden, the bottom half of the inning, you have Andrus essentially making 3 errors. You have the bases loaded, and one of the greatest bat flips and moments I've ever witnessed in my life of Bautista sending a Sam Dyson 2-seamer way deep to left center field. I mean, I didn't care for either team. I didn't, it wasn't a situation I want the Jays to win or I want the Rangers to win. It was just the most hype I've ever felt about baseball in my life. That entire inning of just the story building up to it, the weirdest way to lose a game to the best way to win it. Oh man, it's just what I think of every single moment. And Andrus, who's an amazing defender, just those errors, like he couldn't field it at second and hit his glove seam at third on the bunt play, is just such hype, and it just always go back to that one. So for me, it's Blue Jays Rangers 7th inning.
It gives me chills thinking about the bat flip and the home run. Just that moment, the way to come up at the biggest moment, and not just with the performance from Jose Bautista, but with the just emphatic bat flip that just like, it would have been a great moment without that if he just tosses in, but the bat flip just elevates it. It was such a perfect moment in front of that crowd. The crowd just absolutely explodes like a bomb went off.
It's unbelievable. And I will say, I am making my list. I know there are so many classic moments that we could go into here. I'm personally going to do more in the last 20 years or so, things that I personally were involved with, which I know isn't necessarily how everyone's going to interpret it, but it's just for me, is something that I personally was there. There are way better things than I could imagine in the history of baseball. But when it comes to me personally, it's going to be more of the things that I experienced. Chris.
I'm going to do a little bit of both. And so my first pick is what I think is the most important moment in Major League Baseball history, the moment that Major League Baseball at least started to, actually become a true major league, not, a league that was only for certain people. And that's obviously Jackie Robinson bringing the color line in 1947. I've gotten into like arguments on Twitter with people because one thing I've always said is like pre-integration, the Major League Baseball was more like a minor league. People weren't being selected for their talent, obviously. Like, when only white players or only white presenting Latino players were being picked. And so that in and of itself dilutes the player pool. And so it took a long time for baseball to become fully integrated. And I think you could argue that it's a process that's still ongoing. But Jackie Robinson bringing the color line and, Larry Doby just a few months later, who often gets forgotten in these conversations. These were all-time great players who took advantage of the opportunity that they earned and really opened up the game to become the, much more multicultural and global game that we've seen today. And so it's, I think it is absolutely the single most important moment in baseball history. And I think that's the right pick there.
Absolutely. What's your second round pick?
Now, this one is a deeply personal one for me. I'm a Marlins fan, and the death of Jose Fernandez was a crushing moment for me. It was so heartbreaking, and when D. Gordon hit the home run on the second pitch in the first at-bat of the first game after Jose Fernandez's death, that was just – God, I remember sitting on my couch, and I had been, like, kind of crying all day about it, and just that moment, the first pitch of the game, Bartolo Colon's pitching, D. Gordon goes up. He's a left-handed hitter. He's wearing Jose Fernandez's helmet. He goes up as a right-handed hitter and does Jose Fernandez's batting stance as a tribute to him. And then the very next pitch, D. Gordon, who has 11 home runs for his career, hits a kind of a bomb. It wasn't a cheapie either, out to right field. One of the just absolute most improbable moments, but the perfect way to begin the healing process. And that whole game was incredibly emotional. You had, Yoenis Cespedes putting up Jose Fernandez's jersey in the Mets dugout. It was a moment that was felt all throughout Major League Baseball. It's still one of those things that I just, every once in a while, I just think about it and I'm like, I can't believe Jose Fernandez actually passed away. He's my favorite baseball player ever. But
man,
that was an
right
absolute perfect moment for the city of Miami, the team, and Major League Baseball. The perfect way to pay tribute to him.
Yeah, Justin and I watched the video of it again last night because that was actually on my list also. And, even with the time that's passed, still got choked up over it all.
Oh, makes me cry every time. Like when he just starts breaking down right when he gets to first base, and he barely makes it to the dugout. And you actually see Barry Bonds, cranky, angry, nobody likes him, Barry Bonds, just kind of wrap him up in the biggest bear hug as he gets to the dugout. And it's just, it was a sad day, but an amazing moment.
Amazing pick. I'm going to go with Game 7, 2016 World Series. Not the Chris Bryant throw. No, the Rajah Davis home run. That is just, you got to be kidding me. You have the Cubs right there about to do it, and all of a sudden, Rajah Davis, of all people, to wrap around an Aroldis Chapman fastball and send it to the seats and left. And what made it even so much better was the rain delay after.
Yeah.
Where now we're just in this moment of purgatory, stuck with the world all watching because it's the Cubs World Series.
Well, it's
and
not just the Cubs
Cleveland,
though.
who hasn't won it.
Cleveland,
since
yeah.
And it's just this is absolute madness going on. And that Rajai Davis did that, and he just changed everything all of a sudden. Everyone was just like, all right, fine, the Cubs are going to do this. This is done. But it's not, and we just don't know what's going to happen after. Of course, Montgomery on the hill, the curveball, the little tapper to Bryant. And that smile on his face and the way he slipped as he threw it, too, just as an inkling of, like, all of the curse trying so hard to stop the Cubs from winning it as he throws it to first base. But really, the peak for me in that moment was that Rajai Davis home run.
Cleveland has two of the most heartbreaking World Series losses. The last two times they've made the World Series since, 1954. You've got the 2016 series with Rajai Davis, and then the 97 World Series where they lost on a walk-off. That's rough.
Oh, man. Danielle.
All right. So, I'm just going to go full homer. And I'm totally, obviously, very okay with that. So for my next pick, I am going to go with Game 7 of the 2010 World Series. The last pitch, watching that go in, watching Brian Wilson get that strikeout, the look of joy on Buster Posey's face, and the start of the Buster hugs. Just his arms outstretched while Wilson is out on the mound doing this, and Buster just going straight in for it. One of those times where even if somebody isn't into hugs, they're getting that Buster hug. It's not going to stop. At the time, our baby was 2 months old. And so we're in our house, and we're watching the game, and we're trying to silently but excitedly cheer and jump up and down because she was sleeping on Justin at the time. And so kind of like gently, gingerly stood up and then just kind of did this a bit while I was jumping up and down but covering my mouth. We learned later we wouldn't even need to do that because we also took her to the World Series parade and the kids slept through the entire thing. Fans slept the entire time. But that moment for us after 56 years was just so joyous. So that's what I'm going with.
And that was Miguel Cabrera not swinging at a fastball inside the zone, if I remember correctly.
I believe so. Whoops.
Oh, man. Such a good one. Fast. What do you got?
I'm gonna start mine with the catch. I think it's pretty incredible that you have a moment in baseball history that repeats itself so often in a player catching a ball that is synonymous with that word, right? Like the fact that you have something that is just called the catch, you know what I mean? And like that in and of itself is absolutely insane. Obviously, we're talking about Willie Mays, and I think it was the 1954 World Series. And I think we see the image, we all know the image. Nick, I think you have it in somewhere in your room, right? Yeah, right over your left shoulder.
That's
yeah. And what's so amazing about that too is, well, it's like, I love that it is a transitional moment in baseball history. None of us were alive for this, but it was something that any of our older relatives who were involved in baseball or paid attention to baseball probably had some awareness of. So it's kind of like a passing of the buck of baseball history, which passing of the buck is the wrong term. It's kind of like just a transitional period of like, oh, this is why baseball is so amazing. I also think people kind of don't give a lot of credence to the fact that there were men on base. Like it wasn't just the catch. It was the throw back home that like kept them in the game, kept the New York Giants in the game where they went on to win in extra innings. So we'll start with the catch, and then we're going to go. I don't know if anyone wanted to talk about the catch at all before I moved into my next.
Well, I mean, it just the thing that is, if you've never really seen it, or if you don't know about the Polo Grounds, which is where the catch happened, it is probably the wildest stadium in baseball history in terms of dimensions.
It is.
It's basically built on like a New York City block, and if you've ever been here, they're short on one side, long on the other. And so it's like 270 feet down the lines with like 25-foot walls. But then deep center, there's a statue in play on the field in deep center. And then he probably makes this catch 440 feet from home plate.
Yeah.
And so he probably runs about 160 feet to get to it and then throw it back into the infield. It's, I mean, arguably the greatest player in Major League Baseball history, and putting the things that make him arguably the greatest player in Major League history into play in one moment. You know?
And that's why it's the catch, right? Like that's why it's just the catch. It's something that people go outside and do. We can have the whole argument about is it have a cat, whatever, but it's the catch. So you actually, Chris, you brought something up to me that this wasn't on my list coming into it. It does not deserve a round 3 spot, but whatever. We're having fun. Okay. You bring up the Polo Grounds. Okay. I'm going to say then that my favorite baseball moment isn't even a moment, but it's just the notion of Tall's Hill in the old Minute Maid Park, right?
Yes.
Because that to me encapsulates I like the things that encapsulate the uniqueness of the sport, as you'll see with a lot of the remainders on my list. And the fact, as you said, the Polo Grounds is absolutely insane. But then our contemporary was a stadium that had a hill, an incline in center field with a flag in play. People could have died. You could run face first into that thing. That just to me encapsulates how insane this sport can be sometimes and how just quirky and idiosyncratic. So I'll make that my round 3 pick.
I love that pick. That's another thing. Like anytime I'm playing in a baseball video game, I'm always trying to find whatever like classic parks they have that have just like Crosley Field, I think had like the left field line was 410 feet or something. Like I love that about old baseball, that it's a thing that's kind of lost a little bit in modern baseball, but just like these old parks that were just like, well, it's a city and we have to build it around like whatever existing tenement buildings are around.
Yeah.
And so whatever fits, maybe
That's
we have
amazing.
fans in the field, which was the case at Fenway for the first like 10 years that it existed.
Right. Yeah, and
They just
and
had
the
a
fact
rope.
that
I love
every
that.
other sport has like a defined field. Like this is what it is, guys. I mean, sometimes in Premier League maybe it's a little bit different, but for the most part, this is what it is. And
You've got to have 4 bases and then whatever
That's
you
it.
want.
do whatever you
fun.
want.
And you bring the good thing about Fenway, I love that too. Like earlier stadiums, like the fans would literally just pull the rope back when the opposing team was up and bring the rope in when their team was. I just love that. It just makes no sense.
That's so good. Danielle, what's your 3rd round pick?
All right, just to not be a complete homer, even though obviously a lot of my picks are going to be Giants moments, because those are my favorites. But another favorite that actually has nothing to do with the Giants would be the Game 5 in the 2019 NLDS when Kershaw was brought in as a reliever and he blew it.
I thought you said you weren't going to be a complete homer.
I love that it's for Danielle. It's spite-driven favorite baseball mode.
I am petty and I love it.
I love it. I love it.
Kershaw was brought in, and let's see, it was the 8th inning. And he let a home run to Rondon go through. And then immediately after, a home run by Soto. And that was it. Yanked him out. And, there was just something about it because, the Giants in 2014 had brought in Madison Bumgarner, in the relief position to come in and finish off that game for the Giants, finish off that series for the Giants. And there was just a feeling of the Dodgers doing that with Kershaw coming out also. And to see it not go the way it did for the Giants, there was just something really poignant about that for me. So that's my pick.
I feel really weird, endorsing, 3rd round pick. Okay, when Clayton Kershaw, one of my favorite pitchers I've ever seen, was bad. Yeah, great. Let's
All right, look, I will say I'm glad that he was able to, redeem himself of his postseason, hiccup.
I'm just being hilarious. Okay, so that's a great 3rd round pick. I'm gonna go with the other shot heard around the world, which is Bartolo Colon hitting a home run. That is just still is one of the best calls I've ever seen, or ever heard, I should say, from Gary Cohen. The impossible has happened. The whole season of watching Bartolo, have the helmet fall off, which he then requested to get a larger helmet because he found that everyone enjoyed when his helmet fell off. So just this whole antics of this that we never anticipated anything to come of it. Outside, just him just looking silly. And all of a sudden, he hits a home run that ended James Shields' career. Is just unbelievable. Like, it's all we could ever talk about for months after. We still even mention this now. I have to put that as my round 3 pick.
I always feel
that was
for
definitely on
Shields.
my list too.
Yeah, that's a good one. Shields, that just crushed me. Shields' face, and then it really broke a man. That broke a man.
And fortunately, for the Padres, breaking him got them Tatis. So
There you go.
thank you, Cologne, says all of San Diego. Chris Towers, what do we got?
So I had my 2 picks lined up, but then you said the words "breaking a man," and that's going to require me to change things up. So my first pick, my last pick of the 3rd round, is Albert Pujols' home run off of Brad Lidge. I think the extent to which it broke Brad Lidge is overstated. He had a few good seasons after that, but it's the exact opposite of the Jose Bautista bat flip moment, where that was at home. The stadium just it explodes like a bomb went off. Albert Pujols hitting that home run off Brad Lidge in the World Series in Houston. No, that was the NLCS, right? That was still in Houston.
It was the NLCS.
Yeah. Houston was still in the NL, yeah.
Brad Lidge, one of the best closers in baseball. The crowd is going nuts, and he hits that home run. And as soon as it leaves the bat, it's like Boba Fett's like negative bomb in Star Wars, the thing where like everything comes in first and then goes out. That's what it was like. It's just like all the oxygen gets sucked out of the room. And I don't know if that ball has landed yet. It's like it's kind of like, have you ever seen Prince's guitar solo during While My Guitar Gently Weeps at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the end, he just throws his guitar up in the air and you never see it land. It's kind of like that, where it's just like the ball just disappeared. I don't know if did it get vaporized? I have no idea if there's any evidence that ball actually ever hit the ground again.
Chris, you ever seen Ratatouille?
What's that?
The Ratatouille, the Pixar movie?
Oh, I love it.
Do you remember at the end where he feeds the Ratatouille to the food critic and he goes back to his childhood? I was a huge Houston Astros fan when the Orioles were struggling, and you just, with that sentence, gave me severe PTSD. I literally went back, Brian McPhee's basement. That was in Brian McPhee's basement watching it in a little Astros hat, and I just, wow, you brought me back. That sucked.
It was a bad moment for Astros fans, but just in terms of baseball moments that I'll never forget watching, that's absolutely up there. So that's the one I had to pivot to.
4th round.
And then let's go low. Randy Johnson versus a bird.
Oh yeah, I gotta cross that off my list.
This is what,
it's too negative.
No, I love it.
18 years ago. Look, it sucked for the bird.
It's great though.
But that is a spring training. Is there another spring training moment that people talk about more than 3 weeks later? I can think of 2. Randy Johnson hitting a bird with a fastball, and the time Billy Crystal played in a spring training game for the Yankees. Yeah. That's it. Those are the only 2 things I remember from spring training. It's just, one, it's Randy Johnson, who's practically a mythical figure in baseball at the time. 6'10". He was such a good pitcher that nobody really laughed at his nickname, the Big Unit. And the chances of that ever happening, let alone happening with the hardest throwing, most intimidating pitcher in baseball, which just ups it to a degree, it's a little negative, but it's also one of the most memorable things I think that's happened in baseball over the last 20 years. Might have been longer than that, actually. Come on, you got to throw that on there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I get it. I get it completely. It's still being shown today.
I apologize to the Audubon Society.
They're our biggest patron. How dare you?
I'm going to go with a very personal moment. I remember being in my friend's basement. It was 6 of us watching the Subway series. I think it was about 10 years ago, something like that. And actually, maybe even larger and longer ago. And here it is. It's the bottom of the 9th, and it's I believe it's 8-7 Mets. Teixeira's on first base, and A-Rod is up, and K-Rod is pitching, and 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, and A-Rod, pops it up. There's a man on third or so, and we're thinking, oh well, the game's over. K-Rod does his little all right, I got this, it's done, and Luis Castillo drops the ball, and all my friends, most of my friends are Mets fans. So there they are. They start celebrating in my face. This is, oh my God, yeah, Mets are the best. Yankees suck. All this stuff. And then Castillo drops the ball. And not only was this just a tie game, but the fact that this was a moment where the Mets fans thought they won the game to all of a sudden not just tying it, but then losing the game because Teixeira ran his butt off from first base. And Castillo throws it to second instead of home. It was just... one of the greatest moments ever. Someone even made the New Year's Eve joke about dropping the ball. And this past year, and I was just like, this is the perfect joke. I will never forget that. Just the swing of emotion in one stupid error in that way, from winning the game to losing the game. And it's not even, there was another moment like that, of course, too, that we might bring up here. But that one was just so definitively it's over. There's no way this is not going to get caught, and then it just pops out of his mitt. Oh, I will never forget that moment.
Good one.
I like it.
Danielle,
All the pieces came together very nicely for that one. Okay, so for my next pick, I decided, and I don't know, maybe more people know about this than I think, but I know for me watching the game, it was April 30th, 2003, Giants game, and Jason Schmidt was on the mound. Now, the thing about this was that Jason Schmidt's mom had died 7 days before. She'd been diagnosed the year before with a brain tumor, and she passed away. They, of course, gave him a little bit of time, and then he came back, and I think we all know you don't know how that's going to impact a pitcher or, a player, anybody. We've seen plenty of moments where there are times of life stress for a player and it gets in their head and they're just not able to be as present as you want them to be. And then there are other times that they take that and it somehow pushes them on to be amazing. And for Jason Schmidt, that day, he was amazing. He pitched a complete game shutout. He gave up, 3 hits, no runs, 12 strikeouts. And I remember watching the game and just thinking, you get into the 8th inning and holy cow, he's still in this. And he's still, you can still see the energy buzzing off of him. And then to see them allow him to just go ahead and finish out the game. Sure, he was doing great, but I think we've seen plenty of times where pitchers are doing an amazing job and they still pull them just to, preserve their arm and things like that. But I think that everybody knew he needed that moment and they let him have it. And it was just really beautiful to watch.
Great answer. Great.
I love it. Yeah. I always I was trying to think of a moment that there's so many amazing moments like that too, which really just stick out. I mean, D. Gordon's another one. I think Michael Lorenzen hit a home run the day after his father passed away too, which was also just another moment where they just make you feel, it's just, it's beyond baseball. I'm going to stick with 2 moments again that encapsulate things that are idiosyncratic about baseball, things that could only happen with this sport. And that's kind of why I love it so much. And we're going to start with Sid Finch. Sid Finch, I think, is one of the best moments in baseball history. For those who may not be listening, or for those who are listening who might not know about Sid Finch, I would go check it out. Sid Finch is the greatest prospect who ever lived. He was a Mets prospect, written about in Sports Illustrated. He could throw he was an orphan who his father was an archaeologist who died in a plane crash, I think. He was raised in Nepal. He was a yoga expert, and he could throw a fastball 168 miles an hour. When the story broke about him, several GMs reached out to Sports Illustrated to find more. New York Mets publications were furious with the Mets organization for not informing them of this prospect. He had a locker next to Darryl Strawberry, and it was all a fake. It was just all bull. And like the fact that there was this brief 2-day pandemonium over a guy who could throw 168 miles an hour. 168 miles an hour. Okay. The scale to determine like how good a pitch was still like a 1 through 8 or something. And he got a 9 on his fastball velocity and control. And Mets fans went bananas. Like, and I just love that. I love that we had a moment. Like, can you imagine any other sport where they just made up a player and a fan base was like, oh my God, like poor Mets. And then the next one that I have is, again, another moment that is just, that can only happen in baseball. I genuinely don't think this could happen in any other sport, because what other sport could you play a full game on LSD? And that's Doc Ellis, the LSD moment. Like, could you just take a step back here, right? Like, I'm a huge Ravens fan. Could you imagine Joe Flacco going into the Super Bowl and doing that on LSD? Like, can you imagine playing any other sport on LSD? And the fact that he not only like was on LSD, but threw a no-hitter, like is like, take a step back. I'm honestly not huge like into drugs. Like, I've smoked weed. I do it every once in a while. When I smoke weed, I am down for the count. Like, I'll put a record on and I'm happy. This man was on LSD and he did something that few people have ever done. Like, that is just a moment that you can tell someone and they're like, I don't believe you. I do not believe you. And it happened. So that's it for me.
I love that he forgot that he was supposed to pitch that day.
And then he was like, all right, guess I'll do some LSD.
And then finds out and is like, yeah, sure, all right.
It's amazing.
Fine.
I love it.
He's going to be great.
So good. Danielle.
All right. My next pick, I think, is perfection. But that would be Matt Cain's Perfect Game. June 13th, 2012. All right. Now, I'm picking this for a couple of reasons. One, because, we're talking about the love of baseball. And we all know there's been, so many tweaks here and there. Oh, baseball is boring. There's not enough action. Oh, the game is too long. There's so many things that are said. But for those who really love baseball, and I know you guys do, it's those intricacies that we love. It's the, Alex, the pitches, just the small movement of the fingers and how that changes things up. Just a small tweak of a stance and how that can completely change, the way someone does in a game. And so it's those little things, and a perfect game, that's what it is. Now, a friend of mine was at that game. I, unfortunately, it just seemed like any other day. And so I was going about and running errands and things like that. And I got a message from somebody that, listen, I can't say what it is, but you just need to be, watching or listening to this game. So I was in the parking lot of a grocery store, turned on the game, and just sat there and listened to it. My brother was with me, and we just sat in the car for the rest of the game because we didn't want to miss a single moment. However, my friend was there live in person watching the game. Does not love the game in the same way. So when the 7th inning came around, she went, this game is so boring. There's nothing happening. And she left.
That's unbelievable. That's unreal.
Wow.
Oh, no, I mean, obviously, it's been almost 10 years? I tell this story as often as I can. Like, she knows that I bring it up constantly because it hurts my heart that she was there for this amazing moment in history, and left. So that's my round 5 pick.
Man.
I know.
I'm just now in pain.
Yeah.
All right. Well, quickly, I think my favorite baseball moment is really the last 2 years of PitchCon hitting our $10,000 goal, and hopefully you can help us get there by continuing to support the cause. Go to pitchwills.com/PitchCon. At the bottom, contribute to this. We just recently got another $50 donation from Joe. Thank you so much, Joe, for supporting the cause. But yeah, you can too. Please help us get to 10,000. And we're raising money for Feeding America. But I have so many here. I realize we're not going to get through them. So I got to do a pitcher one. I can't do this without that. So I'm going to talk about Steven Strasberg's debut because the days of prospects are different now than they were back in 2010. And all I knew was Steven Strasberg, the number 1 pick. He threw 100 at San Diego and San Diego State, I believe. And just, we knew about that guy. And we were so excited. It was going to happen. We're going to get him. We're going to get to watch Steven Strasberg. He's the next coming of the greatest thing ever. And what does he do? 14 strikeouts in his first game. And it's just, you found a way to watch that if you could. It was just the best. It was the most dominant debut I've ever witnessed. And you can feel the city of Washington, who had not had a playoff team at the time. And, a new expansion team and everything. Like, finally, this is their number 1 pick that they got from it. And, oh, my God, it was just so special. Like, this is it. This is the greatest. We're seeing it in front of us. That debut was just special. Did you guys watch it?
Yeah.
It's really rare for that kind of hype to actualize.
Yeah.
Like there aren't that many. Like, Steven Strasberg was probably the greatest draft prospect of all time. If in terms of the hype around him at the time coming into the draft, we don't really know that much about number 1 overall picks, but Steven Strasberg was already a household name amongst baseball fans for what he did at San Diego State. And frankly, if it wasn't him, it was probably Bryce Harper, the next year, in terms of hype, and both of them lived up to it. It's pretty incredible. And to do that in your very first start, he was electric. The crowd was electric. It was great.
It was so amazing. All right, Towers, you got 2 here.
All right, so I'm not sure if we're going to make it back to me one more time. So I guess I've got to go. Got to pick one of my personal faves. So I'll start off with Roberto Clemente getting his 3,000th hit in his final major league game, a double off the wall in the final game of the season. One of the greatest players of all time. My father is from Pittsburgh. My mom's from Puerto Rico. So I've always said Roberto Clemente was basically God in my house. And the perfection of him getting that last hit right before the end of the season, where he then goes on to, go on a relief mission to Nicaragua after a terrible earthquake where the plane goes down. He was on the plane personally because he was worried that the supplies that they were sending were being stolen. This is, one of the great men in Major League Baseball history. And, the fact that he got there and the fact that, that last hit was 3,000 is a really cool moment, I've always thought. And then number 2, I'm going to go with Dontrell Willis's rookie season. Just as personally for me, maybe the most fun I've ever had as a baseball player is watching young Dontrell Willis. I think it's his 8th start. He throws a 1-hitter against the Mets. He was such a phenomenon that I think the Marlins averaged like 40% more attendance in the games that he started versus the rest of the games that season. There was a random Wednesday game where he was slated to pitch against Randy Johnson, and this random Marlins Diamondbacks game ends up getting picked up on ESPN, and he outduels Randy Johnson. He was a great hitter. He was a great athlete. Game 5 of the NLCS, he's cruising through 5 shutout innings and then hits a triple to dead center where he slides head first into third, completely out of gas, comes out and gives up 4 runs. Even that moment I love, because it was such like an encapsulation of the way he went 100% balls to the wall all the time. Just absolutely, I mean, the leg kick, everything about him, his smile, his infectious energy, just absolutely one of the most fun times I've ever had as a sports fan was watching and rooting for Dontrell Willis as a rookie. So that's my pick there.
Man, I have so many left. I
think we can get back to around 7. I think we can.
Okay.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I'm gonna go with. Man, I want to go with that one. I mean, I do want to say really a quick shout out. There was this one kid about 15 years ago who hacked into the Orioles stadium and said that he ruled and that he's going to set the home run record and he can eat unlimited hot dogs. That's Alex Fast on Tripflix. And that was an amazing baseball moment. I certainly think so.
Well, there goes mine.
No. I mean, something very recently that I think I don't want to forget, because I remember watching it and just freaking out with all of you, was Game 4, Brett Phillips walk-off against the Dodgers, where this play is so ridiculous to me because it's first and second, bottom of the ninth, essentially 1-2 pitch, down by 1, and Brett Phillips hits a normal single to center. And the thing is, this should tie the game. This should not, make the Rays win it. And Rosarena is on first base, and he's hustling through, and Chris Taylor bobbles it, then tries to throw home. It gets cut off when it shouldn't have. If it should have, then or if it was, then the throw home is wide. Rosarena shouldn't have been going. He doubles back, then he comes forward. So many people messed up on this. There was no backup from Kenley to then throw it over. It was such a play of chaos that as you're watching it, you're thinking, this is it, this is not, this is it. Your changes of emotions are so quick in it. And then it all ends with a Rosarena laying on home plate. And Brett Phillips, of all guys, I mean, you just have to root for Brett Phillips all the time, soaring off, having his one moment that we'll all remember, and such a good guy to have it. That was so awesome. We couldn't
and then
stop
almost
talking
dying
about that.
and needed oxygen.
Yeah. I mean, the Rosarena going down, realizing, oh no, I'm going to get thrown out now, trying to double back, realizing that the ball got away, and then coming back forward to home. So much chaos in that moment. Oh my God. Like, so many noises we all made watching it live. I absolutely adored it. In Brett Phillips Game 4 in 2020. Amazing. All right, Danielle.
Okay, I'm going to be quick about this one in hopes that we can get to the round 7 pick as well. So, and this one has a bit of a positive message. I'm going to go with Travis Ishikawa's walk-off October 16th, 2014. 3-run home run. And I'm adding this one in because I think we all know baseball or life, don't give up. Ishikawa was with the team, and then he wasn't, and then he came back. He's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. But he's got this amazing moment that I know at least all Giants fans will always remember. It is an iconic moment for us, and that's amazing for somebody who was actually ready to give up on baseball at one point. And his friend told him to not give up, and so he kept pursuing his passion and came back and was able to have that moment, and I think it's awesome.
Love it.
Great call.
I will burn through my final 2 so we can make sure that everyone gets some time for their round 7. My first, I'll start with, so 2001, I was probably 13, 14 years old, sitting upstairs in my room. I told my parents I had gone to bed because it was way past my bedtime, but I was very quiet. I had my little 11, 12-inch TV on, watching the ending of the 2001 World Series between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the New York Yankees. And it felt like the entire, not just me, it felt like the entire world was rooting against the New York Yankees because they were on the verge of winning their 4th consecutive World Series. They were up, I think, 3-2 going back to Arizona. And all that needed to happen for them to win was for Mariano Rivera to close out the game in the 9th inning. And just that moment of the huge, the New York Yankees and Mariano Rivera, and then that Luis Gonzalez bloop single. And I just remember freaking out in my room, like just how excited I was to watch the Yankees lose. And then just that underdog story. They replaced the Marlins for the quickest to win a World Series as an expansion franchise. They did it in 4 years. The Marlins had done it in 5. And it was just an amazing moment for me just to see that. And then the last one that I'll do, this will probably be my last one overall, is a personal one to me. And that is Delman Young's double in Game 2 of the ALDS against the Detroit Tigers. I was lucky enough to be there. It was I've been to a lot of fun sporting events, including the Super Bowl, and that was the loudest I had ever heard a place. I was in the top deck on the first base side, and I felt Camden Yards shake. Like, I just felt it shake, which was terrifying, but was also like absolutely incredible. It just felt like we had already won game one, which was great. But to have that comeback moment, you just felt the love and passion for baseball, because Baltimore is a baseball town. Like, the Colts were great, but then when they left, there was there was something lacking. The Ravens came in and they were great, but like it just, you felt this dormant sleeping giant awaken again for a moment in the city of Baltimore, and we reclaimed that sport for a second, and it was just unbelievable.
Great stuff there, Danielle.
All right, my last pick is going to be really on brand for me. So, October 3rd, 1982, Joe Morgan's 3-run home run in the 8th, which effectively knocked out the Dodgers, and because the Giants were already out. But it felt like they were just reaching over and going, nope, you're not going either, and pulled them back down. The fun thing about it is actually that my brother was at the game. And he said that even after all the players had left the field, left the dugout, gone into the clubhouse, the fans all stood out there chanting Joe Morgan's name for like 10 minutes afterwards because they just were so damn excited. So
That's amazing.
That's my last pick.
I dig it. All right, I have so many here. I'm going to spoil one of Chris's, I'm sure. I'm just going to list off 20 really quickly because I'll tell you what my pick is first. It's a personal one. It's being in the stadium while Didi Gregorius hit that home run against Irvin Santana in the wild card game. I have never felt a stadium shake before, and I have anxiety, and there was a part of me that was like, am I going to die right now? But I'll be like, I'm going to die happy if I do, because that was just something else. The Yankees were like, all right, great, we're in the wild card, we're going to have this playoff run. And we're down 3-0 with Severino allowing 3 runs in the top of the inning, and then Chad Greenham's coming in, and then just Didi hitting the home run to right just exploded. So that's personal. I mean, I'm probably not going to steal yours, Chris. I just have to mention quickly, David Freese doing things, Armando Galarraga, that perfect game that wasn't, and then the emotional stuff after with Joyce and stuff, incredible. I watched Aaron Boone's home run live. Amazing. Paul O'Neill kicking a baseball is just so good. The fact that the bug game exists, and with Jabba Chamberlain getting the midges on him, it was something else. Masson Bumgarner in 2014 winning it for the Giants with Alex Gordon. Should he have gone home? No, he shouldn't have, but still we think about it. And then, of course, George Bush throwing out the first pitch after 9/11, and it's still known as the best first pitch ever thrown with this dead center of the plate. What a moment, the thumbs up, everything like that. All of that stuff. And yeah, I see franchise here even actually mentioning the 9/11 home run that he hit absolutely after it. So many fun stuff there, but the actual one I'm going to say is Didi's home run. Chris, what else you got?
So I've got a couple of personal ones that I could have gone with, specifically to Needle Nick. I could have gone with the 2003 World Series, Josh Beckett's 3-hitter complete game to close out the series at Yankee Stadium. I could have gone with Game 4 of the World Series, which is the game I was at, which is one of the most amazing moments I've ever had. Miguel Cabrera hits a home run off of Roger Clemens after getting brushed back. Alex Gonzalez hits a walk-off. I am going to go with one that Nick mentioned, though. Armando Galarraga's imperfect game. I think it's such a it's like a crappy moment because he didn't get it, but this was a guy who kind of seemed like he might have been on his way out. He was an okay young pitcher who had a good rookie season, but then really wasn't very good. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 4th start of the season in 2010, his 3rd full season, he's cruising. I mean, only 3 strikeouts, but has 8 2/3 perfect innings. And then there's just this play to first base. Armando Galarraga beats the runner to first. The ball gets there in time, and Jim Joyce calls him safe. And Armando Galarraga, his response isn't to get angry. His response is just like, it's just like, and the grace with which he handled that whole thing, and the vitriol that Jim Joyce got thrown at him for making a very human error. Like, it was the wrong call, but it wasn't. He wasn't trying to do anything to Armando Galarraga, and the whole world is angry at him, and Armando Galarraga just isn't. I think is it the next game that Armando Galarraga goes out and gives the lineup card and kind of gives him like a a handshake, and it's just like, one, the grace with which Armando Galarraga handled that moment is sort of hard to imagine. It would be so human for him to blow up, and you see it all the time, and to hold a grudge. And, you know, he just acknowledges, like, the guy's human. He messed up. And it's almost more memorable the way it happened. I wish he had gotten that perfect game, because it would have been an incredible moment for him. But just as a baseball fan, in my memory, just the way everyone handled it and the way everything came out of that was, I think pretty cool.
I love the fact that he says later that, you know, it may not be in the records books, but he got a perfect game, and that's what he's going to tell his son.
Yeah.
Right.
In his heart, that's what he knows, and I love that.
Yeah.
And there's one thing I actually is on my list that someone else mentioned here. The '98 summer of Sosa versus McGuire. I remember as a kid watching that was just so much fun. Every single day, did he hit one? I mean, imagine people were like that with DiMaggio's hit record as well.
Yeah.
But that really did the wonders for the sport.
The Hall of
And
Fame
one last
voters
one.
might want to pretend it never happened, but as a kid who was 10 years old watching
It's the
that,
best
and just
thing.
Totally.
it's just one of my favorite baseball memories.
It's the reason I got into steroids. As a 10-year-old, I said, you know what? I really want.
The very
That looks
last
pretty
one I'm
cool.
gonna mention
I wondered.
is Dyson Koo going against Randy Johnson. I don't know if you know this. Mets pitcher reliever who wasn't supposed to be there is just sitting in the back of the batter's box. Tim McCarver says this is the easiest at bat of Randy Johnson's season. And what does he do? It's a double to center, goes to second, and then they bunt him to third, and no one's covering home, and he sprints home and scores.
That's
And
great.
So
instant
many.
replay, probably out, but this reliever that no one ever thought of, was never supposed to even have an at-bat, just won everybody's hearts in these, 60 seconds. It was something else. But anyway, this is our draft. We got 7
Can I
rounds
throw
through
in
it.
one last one?
Do it.
Oh, please.
Honorable mention, Danny Farquhar throwing out the ceremonial first pitch after he had a brain hemorrhage.
Yeah.
And seeing
Yeah.
him out there with all the doctors and staff who helped him, and all of his teammates going out there and standing behind him, his family, just everybody behind him. I've always thought that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
That's a great call. Fast, were there any extra ones you wanted to mention?
Oh my God! There's we didn't talk about Barry Bonds breaking Henry Aaron's record. Cal Ripken breaking the streak. The 1994 corked bat incident where the guy has to sneak the pitcher, the relief pitcher, sneaks in, goes through the ventilation system to steal this bat that he knows is corked. That is unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
Great stuff,
I'll
guys.
throw another fun one out there.
Yeah.
A home run and bouncing off Jose Canseco's head.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Of all people.
Oh, man, we can keep going on for a lot of rounds, but we have to keep moving forward. Yeah, Jason Grimsley was the one with the ventilation stuff.
Yeah, Grimsley.
Yeah.
But in the George Brett Pine Tar game, guys, if you have other moments, leave it as a comment as you make a contribution to PitchCon. I will announce them later on through this. So, yeah, definitely make it heard. Make it as a comment as you support a fantastic cause. As we're over, let's see here. We're over 7,200 raised now. So thank you, Chris, Danielle, Alex. Thanks for being a part of this. This is a lot of fun. You know, it's a 4-day event of baseball, whether it's fantasy baseball, whether it's a series talks about the state of the game. Sometimes we just want to talk fun and our favorite moments and reminisce about this beautiful sport. So thanks for joining me today as we did that. Chris, Danielle, Alex, take care,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
He does that every